Hi folks, Willard Sharp here with Willard Sharp Photography, here with another video where today I'll be recapping my storm chase from this past Tuesday, April the 16th. My goal is to, maybe not for every storm chase, but for some of the more successful ones, and even some of the ones that were not successful, doing a recap video on what went right, what went wrong, and kind of what led me to where my target area was, and how I chased that day and what I ended up seeing that day. So before we get into the weather details of the setup for this past Tuesday, if you have not subscribed to my channel, I encourage you to do so. I would really appreciate it. It really helps me out. I'm hoping to break that 1,000 subscribers threshold here in May, just as severe weather season is starting to peak. So give this video a like if you could, and if you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. And now to the feature presentation, which is my chase recap for this past Tuesday. So the Storm Prediction Center had an enhanced risk of severe weather defined for this day in much of central southeast Iowa, northern Missouri, and western Illinois. And the highlight of that enhanced risk area was a 10% tornado chance, as you can see right here. The red dots, those are the tornado reports, and these have all been pretty much confirmed as of the making of this video, which is the following Saturday, so a few days after the event. And you can kind of notice here that the tornadoes are concentrated just kind of outside of that 10%. There definitely were some tornadoes inside the 10% risk area, but you can see several outside, even completely outside of the tornado risk area. And this was because this storm system had a lot of cold core low characteristics, meaning that the storm system had a lot of very cold air aloft, and that cold air helps to drive instability. And these cold core setups, they do tend to produce quite a few tornadoes just off of the warm front here, or very close proximity to the low. A lot of these tornadoes are not very big, not very long lived, but they can sometimes be very photogenic. And that's what I ended up catching on this day, was a photogenic storm, an isolated low top supercell that formed in northwest Iowa and trekked off to the north, and ended up producing 5 tornadoes in the Rockwell City, Manson, Gilbert City portions of northwest Iowa. So let's talk a little bit about the meteorology of this day and kind of what led me to head up this way, as opposed to down here in southeast Iowa, where a lot of other, or I'd say the majority of chasers were this day. So starting off at 18Z, or 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday, you can see a large wound up low pressure system here in eastern Nebraska. And as the day went on, the low slowly trekked off to the northeast, and this was pretty much anticipated and very well forecast. We had a warm front at 18Z stretching across central Iowa here, with a cold front to the south. There was already a lot of ongoing convection here in central and southeast Iowa at this hour. Morning storms, storms started quite early with the system, moved across a good section of Iowa, and at this time in the early afternoon, we had a lot of convection in central and moving into eastern Iowa. The models did a pretty decent job of forecasting this event. The storm mode was kind of messy, kind of hard to get a good bearing for where you wanted to go, but a lot of the initial focus, or where a lot of chasers' focus, was heading over to southeast Iowa. And we'll kind of get into those details why here in a minute, and why I chose northwest Iowa as opposed to southeast Iowa. Here's the 500 millibar flow. Again, here starting at 18Z early afternoon on Tuesday. You can see a nice negatively tilted trough here, ejecting into the Midwest. As we move ahead here, you can see it slowly propagate off to the northeast as the afternoon progressed. So this trough was very well forecasted, and pretty much was spot on from a position standpoint. Now, let's talk about where I ended up and why. So here's the temperature and dew point map. So you can see here's our low here, eastern Nebraska, and you got nice, cold front dry line, going from southern Iowa into eastern Missouri. Again, this is at 18Z on Tuesday. And he got some pretty moist dew points, dew points well into the 60s, coming up into much of southeast Iowa. But you also got a tongue of moisture kind of right along the warm front, flowing into this cold core low. These dew points were in the upper 50s to around 60 degrees. So, as I said, a lot of chasers opted this day to head to southeast Iowa to either follow the convection that was already firing, or there was forecast to be some additional convection that formed behind the initial wave of convection from the morning. And that's what a lot of storm chasers were banking on, is we would get that get that break in between lines, get that redevelopment. And kind of initially, that is where I was leaning towards going. So I live in Madrid, which is right about here. And I left about noon, and there was already storms. In fact, there was a tornado warning right here for where I live for a confirmed small tornado that was very rain-wrapped. That was only about 5 or 6 miles off to my west-southwest. I kept an eye on that storm, really didn't chase it because it was, very much wrapped in rain. It would have been hard to see, very grungy. So I just kind of kept an eye on it and then let it go. And then ultimately I headed to Des Moines to grab a little bit of lunch and then kind of figure out what I wanted to do from that point on. So as I finished lunch, I noticed when I was looking at the data, as I was eating my lunch, to the west of Des Moines, the skies had cleared. So there was clear skies in much of western and southwest and northwest Iowa at this point, as we were approaching 1 o'clock. And I noticed a developing cumulus field to the west of Des Moines. And I thought, okay, that is probably forming on this warm front here. And it's, we definitely have a cold core regime going on. And my thinking was, if we get a storm that fires there, it's very likely it's going to probably go severe. It'll be a low top supercell, and will likely go produce a tornado. So I took a chance. I took a chance and started heading west. Now again, I say that it would produce a tornado. At that point, nothing's guaranteed. Not all cold core setups produce tornadoes, but quite a few of them do. So, but I knew that if it did, it would probably be kind of interesting and photogenic. So, as we move forward through the afternoon, here's 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. So 3 o'clock was around tornado time on the cell that I had chosen. And again, there was a nice, low top supercell that formed out of that cumulus field, and it moved pretty much due north, maybe slightly northeast, basically following this warm front and this tongue of moisture. So during tornado time, I was up here, and you can see the warm front. It progressed pretty quickly off to the north. So one of the concerns I had with the due north storm motion was, that's perpendicular to the warm front. With the storm, any storms that form across the warm front head into the cool sector and be done at that point. They would just become elevated, maybe an elevated hailer or something like that. But looking at the data from after the chase, the warm front was pretty progressive. So I think that prevented that particular storm that I followed from crossing the warm front and too quickly. It basically kind of latched onto it and followed along. So looking at some other data here, this is 1 o'clock in the afternoon, surface-based CAPE. You can see we've already got, with the sun coming out, we had recovery in western Iowa. Go to 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. This is tornado time here. You can see that CAPE following the warm front heading north. 4 o'clock, and then 5 o'clock, when the storm finally started to fizzle out, you can see that the CAPE was dropping off and had a little bit of capping starting. Looking at the 0 to 1 kilometer SRH, again starting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right there along that boundary there. One thing that I've learned after doing storm chasing for a long time is when you have gradients like this, gradients are a really good place to wait for initiation and see some interesting things. And that pretty much panned out, exactly here. So 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, here's tornado time. You can see the gradient, this 0 to 1 kilometer SRH gradient moving to the north with the warm front. Looking at some more data here. This is some composite data real quick. This is the supercell parameter, again, starting at 1 o'clock. You can see definitely, the eyeballs immediately go to southeast Iowa, and that's where a lot of chasers ended up going. But as we go to 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock, you can see a little bubble of enhanced supercell composite here in northwest Iowa. And so this is at tornado time. You got a supercell composite of 4, which is not bad. And then as we head later on, it quickly kind of dissipates, and then the focus shifts to southeast Iowa, where we have that tornado later in the day. Significant tornado parameter, again, this is starting at 1 p.m. again. And you can see as we go to 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, you got a narrow band here of 1. So, not a ton of significant tornado parameter, but, definitely there following that warm front. And then as we get later, as we get to 5 o'clock, it quickly dissipates. Finally, let's take a look at the 0 to 3 kilometer ML Cape and surface vorticity. Again, starting again at 1 o'clock, and you can see quite a bit of cape out here, and vorticity moving in. With that low, you got a lot of spinning in the atmosphere. Move ahead to 3 o'clock to tornado time, and you can see that tongue of cape right up here in north central Iowa, along with vorticity. So, all those parameters, the warm front, the tongue of the moisture of higher dew points, a lot of spin in the atmosphere, in that cold core regime, definitely yielded tornadoes on this day. Okay, we're going to go to the most photogenic storm of the day, or tornado of the day, which is the 4th tornado that I saw with this low-top supercell. This tornado is just north of Manson. It's just after I left town. And I'm recording over the original audio from the video from that day, because I had some technical difficulties, and the audio it was just like double dubbed in. So deleted that audio track, and I'm recording here. But yeah, you can see, stopped and to take some pictures, and this camera view is from my dash cam, and just a very beautiful and elegant tornado here. So let's just watch it here for a moment. Very beautiful, skinny, rope-like tornado. Not very wide at all. On the ground. There's me. I've taken my pictures, heading back into the vehicle. Look at that. Just very elegant. It looks like it's in a rope out phase for almost the entire life cycle of the tornado. You can see the dust plume on the ground. And just a very beautiful tornado to watch. Fortunately, this did stay out in pretty much open countryside. Going back out to do a few more pics. Yeah, I'm not sure what I had going on with my audio from the original video. I think I had something strange going on with OBS. That's what I use to stream and then also record a local copy, and that's what this video is the local copy from that streaming session. But typically, I would not, dub in like this. You can see the tornado's finally moving off a little bit. Kind of in behind that power pole there. Yeah, but look how elegant and twisty it is. Just very cool. It's at this point here I decided to head a little bit further north. See if I could get a closer intercept on it. I mean, I wasn't sure how much longer it was going to last. And you'll see here in a moment when I turn the camera that it is still in frame. Got local authorities there keeping an eye on the storm. Okay, there it is coming. I turned the camera. It's back in frame again. Still on the ground at this point. There it is now. We have it in center frame. And it's at this point here, it starts to fade away. And once it goes pretty quickly.